After 32 grueling rounds of play at the 2025 World Scrabble Championship, Scrabble fans received a dream matchup in the best-of-7 finals. Six-time former world champ and undisputed greatest of all time, Nigel Richards, barely edged out a slew of grandmasters for a spot in the finals. Canadian Adam Logan, the only other player with a past Worlds title in the field, dominated the main event to claim the other final spot. The championship match between these two legends was absolutely peak Scrabble entertainment. So, let's dive in. Adam opens the finals with his clear best move of Bunyan for 22, and Nigel answers with Whiz for 29, holding the first blank. After Adam's top move of Trouter, the T out in space gives Nigel one playable bingo, which he spots, Punctual for 61. Adam draws the second blank alongside clunky tiles. He finds by far his best choice of Paduke for 39, aiming to bingo next turn. Nigel has clunky tiles too, but the K of Paduke lands in just the right spot for him to play the archaic Eclad for 55, his top scoring move by a large margin. Without a playable bingo, Adam still has a fantastic scoring play in Knife for 42. And here, rather than play his top scoring option of Valium placing the V in the triple lane, Nigel sacrifices 2 points and keeps a third vowel on his rack to play Vellum instead. Adam seems to be getting closer to a bingo, but he's not quite there yet and plays Hob for 32. Nigel could overlap this with Odia for 30, but doing so would keep the unappealing V on his rack for next turn, so he decides to play Voice instead for 22. Next, Nigel draws 3 more A's along with the J. Unlucky, but he'll be able to score 48 points with Haj and Ya next turn if it stays open. At last, Adam's rack is nicely balanced, and most players would play something like Smitten here for 76. Instead, Adam plays the beautiful Heimatins from the HA on the board, scoring 4 more points, but also blocking the Haj possibility, leaving Nigel with much weaker options. In classic Nigel fashion, he plays Ah for just 6, setting up a lucrative spot for his J, but Adam sniffs it out quickly and plays Prig for 23 to block. Another nice thing about Prig is that it retains the X for next turn, which slots in nicely here if he can draw an A. After Nigel plays his best option by far of Yodel for 39, Adam gets the A he needs and hammers Fax for 55. Nigel answers with a curious move of Asar for 22, scoring better than other candidate options, but blocking the upper part of the board, perhaps feeling that the rest of the board is open enough to take the points. With 3 sets of duplicates, Adam can't score well, so he blocks as much as he can with Trig for 10. Nigel gets a horrendous draw of the Q and more vowels. Exchanging is called for here, and he could keep his A, given that it's the last one yet to be played. Instead, he makes the more standard exchange, leaving ES, and after Adam's Linny for 27, he gets the crushing draw of 4 more E's, along with 1 I. Rather than exchange again, he plays Lee, expecting his rack to balance thanks to the consonant-heavy bag, but Adam can land the knockout blow here. He can play Jarosite for 48, scoring almost as well as a bingo while exposing no big threats back to Nigel. Instead, he plays the more straightforward bingo of Toilers for an additional 15 points. This does give Nigel very minimal chances of a triple-triple through the S, but even these plays would rarely score enough to truly threaten Adam, and after an academic endgame, the first game in the finals match goes to Adam Logan. The second game starts much better for Nigel as he opens with his only bingo holding the first blank in Jeeping for 96. And after Adam's standard response of Baw leaving strong bingo tiles, Nigel responds with the very defensive A Pawn for just 8. Although the resulting board is quite difficult to bingo on, Adam is still able to get one down in Legation for 61. Still holding on to a small lead, Nigel defends and dumps vowels with Neoi for 18, but the I hits the board in just the right spot for Adam's Zooid for 50. Frustratingly, Nigel has no play that connects the Z to the triple here, and he decides to make another big scoring spot with Yar for 23, ensuring that with a decent draw, he'll get to use whichever spot Adam leaves open. Adam has two very competitive options here in Dach and Zarf. Dach scores more, but Zarf leaves the solid CH and ED combos, which ultimately sways him here. Nigel quickly hits back with his 7-letter bingo of Saltate for 72, and Adam gets the other triple with his top move of Hade for 42. Nigel grabs the lead right back after Axed, and Adam's draw is a weak one with 2 U's. There's no standout play here, so he decides to shed both U's with the tricky Cupula for 22. Nigel scores decently and undoubles both his I's and T's with Kit for 29, and Adam gets a huge stroke of luck, drawing into Drivelled for a whopping 101 points. But Nigel hits right back with Factices for 64, and Adam is saddled with the Q. Recognizing that if he holds onto it and draws an I, he'll have a 44-point place to play it, he plays Very for 36, the computer engine's preferred choice. There's only one E remaining for the every hook, making it a little safer than usual. But Nigel has this E already, and can play what looks to be his clear best choice of Biome for 47. Perhaps balking at the multiple G's lurking in the bag and the imbalance of consonants yet to come, Nigel pivots away from this to play the very surprising Smog for just 30. Adam doesn't draw the I he was hoping for, and clinging to a narrow lead, he plays No for 33, setting up a second good Q spot for Chins if he can snag that precious I. He also needs to dodge a bingo from Nigel, though, and Nigel dashes these hopes with the second blank and his highest score of Tuberoid for 83. Saddled by 7 consonants, that is effectively game over for Adam, and after his Q dump and Nigel's lovely outplay of Tory E, the series is knotted up at 1-1. In Game 3, Adam plays the standard Truly for 24, and Nigel carries his momentum forward with his top bingo of Tanages for 77 with the first blank. And after a tricky turn with no clear top choice sees Adam playing Keat for 30, Nigel lands another heavy blow with Exhumer for 54. Adam's tiles are still clunky, but at least he has an S to threaten Exhumer's plays, so he opts for Yuts to increase the odds of hitting that spot as soon as possible. Nigel has an S himself, and he has the perfect heavy tiles to overlap Keat with Dauf for 46, leaving the very strong NST combo and hoping for vowels. With the UV combo now on his rack, Adam makes by far his top play of Aviso for 56, scoring extremely well while shedding his V. Nigel inches closer to another bingo, playing Comb for 26, and after Adam's clear top move of Unfold for 33, Nigel lands a huge blow in the form of Antitheses for 92, improving his winning chances to well over 90%. In fact, his chances may be even better than that, given that Adam has 3 I's on his rack, leaving him with no inspiring options. He plays With for 20 to at least grab a solid number of points without blocking too much of the board. Nigel's post-bingo draw isn't great thanks to the Q and too many consonants, but Chin here does everything he wants, scoring decently and blocking more of the board. Now down well over 100, Adam needs a miracle, and stunningly, he gets one. His bingo through the F still fits after Chi, as he quickly plays Infamies for 103 to immediately revive his chances here. That being said, Nigel gets an incredible draw after Chin of I blank to his excess of consonants, and he finds his only available bingo here of Tribally for 76, extending his lead back to 101 points and once again putting his winning chances in the mid-90s. The lone drawback of this play is the T in the triple lane. Once in a blue moon, Adam will have a triple-triple through it, and that is exactly what happens, as Adam nearly instantly hits back with Diopters for a massive 149-point score. All of a sudden, it's Adam in the lead in one of the most shocking reversals in Scrabble history, but he can't rest easy yet. Nigel makes an excellent play of do, leaving 4 consonants. Normally something to avoid, but the pool is extremely vowel heavy, and keeping the NG combination will threaten many bingos through the eye of tribally. Not only does Nigel's draw of AER give him the threat of averring, Adam's post-bingo draw is horrible, and there are too many threats on the board for him to block them all. After a long think, Adam decides to play go for 17, blocking the I in the nick of time and preventing averring from fitting on the board. With 5 tiles left in the bag, Nigel realizes that a play like Graven for 36 will allow Adam to get 2 more turns to his likely 1. He makes the excellent choice of Vara for just 11. He can afford to take a low score on this turn as long as he draws into a bingo next move, and Vara gives him excellent chances to do so. With his clock dwindling and looking into an extremely bingo-friendly unseen pool with just 2 tiles left in the bag, while holding unwieldy tiles himself, Adam is in a brutal spot. Threats include bingos under the D of diopters, bingos into the L of unfold, bingos alongside the A of aviso, and bingos from the R and S of diopters. With the game on the line, Adam decides to block as much as he can with Raja for 22. Crucially, this play just barely blocks 7-letter bingos from playing down into the A of aviso. And after drawing his tiles from the bag, he realizes that Nigel had co-rain in that spot ready to go down, and Adam's block has left Nigel's bingo homeless on the board. Nigel can get close with his top endgame sequence of Grice, followed by Adam's leap and an outplay of on, but Adam finishes off one of the most memorable comeback victories in the history of the World Championship, 515 to 499. The players continue on to Game 4 with Adam up 2-1, and Nigel draws the Q and Z to start, playing the standard Chi for 22. Adam keeps things tight with if for 23, and Nigel draws U blank. Rather than open up the board for Adam, Nigel elects to exchange the U, daring Adam to open himself. Adam thinks for a long time, considering whether to counter exchange or play a word, and ultimately settles on duo, likely suspecting that the J and Z are less likely to be in Nigel's range after an exchange 1. Although Nigel has Zoolater here for 88, Zo for 62 is a much better play, keeping the fantastic AERT blank leave. Adam's draw is terrible, and he decides to exchange, and Nigel has the enormous 102-point Chariot ready to go down. To the amazement and horror of the thousands of viewers on the live stream, he transposes his E and H and plays an accidental invalid word. When Adam immediately challenges this word, Nigel doesn't even get up to use the challenge computer, simply taking this word off the board. To make matters worse, Adam immediately hits back with inertia for 76, denying Nigel the ability to play the correct spelling. Although Nigel does wind up playing the valid thaw-ear for 82, this is the Scrabble equivalent of hell freezing over. And to add to the craziness, Nigel's rack was nearly identical to his famous Hayarnet's rack. Indeed, Hairnet was one of his many playable bingos on this turn. It's a jaw-dropping series of events, but despite it all, he's still in solid position in the game, with Adam drawing 7 consonants. After his top move of binds, Nigel answers with jibe for 28, and Adam responds with his best bingo of dampers for 78. With an excess of vowels, Nigel plays dipole to close up the triple and balance his rack, and Adam answers with wax for 44. Nigel's draw is a good one, with excellent bingo tiles except for the J, which he can play for 35. Adam has 2 very close plays, forming Joe in up go for 32 or F for 34, and he opts for the latter, which will deliver him a much higher bingo chance at a cost of keeping the U and having some difficult non-bingo racks. Perhaps sensing strength from Adam after this move, Nigel plays Woo for just 9, making the S of binds more difficult to use. Adam then makes perhaps his biggest mistake of the series, missing the possibility of underlapping the H with for plays like good men for 46. Instead, he responds to Nigel's threatening-looking woo play, giving him credit for a good bingo leave and blocking the S of binds even more conclusively with goldens. That theme does make sense, but he's only scoring 13 in a relatively close game, which could backfire. Nigel answers with sail for 28, setting up his last S of the game in a clever way, and Adam gets a horrendous draw after goldens, though he can at least play Jim for 42. Nigel has the opposite issue. Once again, recognizing the vowel shortage in the bag, he decides against exchanging tiles and plays re for 20 since he's so likely to draw consonants. Adam gets another poor draw and elects to exchange to try and snag that all-important second blank and last S, while Nigel once again dumps vowels with bow, inching closer to a bingo. Adam answers with kef for 37, which is a solid defensive choice, cutting off the sevens line hooking re and the ifs lane for sevens starting with S, all in one move. However, the F out in space is just in the right spot for Nigel to answer with enforces for 80. Giving him a narrow lead. Adam's clock is very low here, and he quickly plays the solid choice of Vina for 32, hoping he can win the race to the second blank, but Nigel already has it and plays Yod for 28, drawing into a host of potential bingos. After Adam's clever desperation play of wing, setting up some bingo draws hooking awing, Nigel can answer with his highest scoring bingo of straddle for 75. Instead, he passes his turn, giving Adam the next move. Nigel recognizes that if either the C or V or the final tile in the bag, he won't be able to play them. Whereas even if Adam blocks the wing hook, Nigel will have tarlatan in two spots that cannot both be blocked. Adam actually passes back once to try to get Nigel to play something, but Nigel isn't taking the bait and he passes right back to Adam once again. Adam resigns himself to playing Vac, temporarily retaking the lead, though he knows that a bingo from Nigel is almost certainly coming, and down comes Tarlatan to finish off Nigel's 509 to 446 win, evening the series at 2 games apiece. Adam starts fast in Game 5 with Armoire for 74, but this gives Nigel the R he needs to answer with Relooked for 78. Adam proceeds to draw 4 power tiles all at once in the Q, S, Z, and blank, and starts by deploying the Z with Zo for 47. Nigel responds with his top choice of Bay for 36, leaving balanced tiles, while Adam replaces the Z with a J. With both blanks in hand, but not even a single vowel, burning one blank here is a reasonable choice, and Adam plays quad for 36 here, shedding his Q and setting up his S in a new spot. Meanwhile, Nigel draws the horrendous UUW, and while he makes his best play of views for 50, it's a very rare optimal play that keeps 2 U's for the next turn. While vowels continue to elude Adam, he draws the critical M tile, which gives him access to the lower left corner via the MZ hook. He plays by far his best choice of jams for 88, more than enough points to burn the blank. Nigel draws a third U and plays the only move worth putting on the board in Quipu for 18, hoping for consonants. Adam continues to have the opposite problem and plays Nard to block the open E of Armoire and score as much as he can here. Nigel draws at least a couple of consonants and attempts to balance his rack with Oo for 14, which sets up his H in a nice spot as well. Adam's consonant overload continues, and he now exchanges 6 tiles, leaving the X, expecting that after Nigel's last play of Oo, a bingo that opens the board will often be coming, potentially giving him good X counterplay. Nigel doesn't have a bingo yet, though, and he can play yeah for 40 here. Instead, he sacrifices points and keeps an extra vowel with high for 38, reasoning that he might need the extra bingo line at some point. Adam's exchange does little to address his consonant issues, so he attempts to fix them by scoring 38 points. Still, after Nigel's icy for 23, Adam is right back where he started with 7 consonants. He plays win for 20, and when Nigel responds with a tonic for 18, he draws 3 sets of duplicates and is again forced to exchange. Nigel could do the same here, but he decides that me for 15 is just enough points to be worth playing, and he draws NS from the bag, threatening Etesian, which would give him the lead. In the nick of time, Adam draws Frontes for 79, allowing him to retain his lead after Nigel's counter bingo for 76. The resulting board has more threats than Adam can deal with all at once. He could block the good overlapping area with Beal, but this would keep the terrible GUV on his rack. He could shed his U and V with vague, but this would open a critical new area of the board for Nigel. So Adam decides on bug for 29, scoring solidly while retaining a balanced lead. Nigel is in a tough spot, needing a bingo or some other way to score a ton. His top scoring move of Har keeps the ugly GGP combination, which is likely to doom him leading into the endgame. He makes a clever play of Agger for 18. Note that Gauger for 22 in the same spot would have scored 4 additional points. Nigel's thinking here is likely that the row 1 bingo line Agger creates is actually quite difficult to block conclusively unless Adam has the V. If Adam attempts to make a low-scoring block, a counter such as Hated could get Nigel surprisingly close on the scoreboard. Adam does have the V in hand, and after his block of Vild for 27, he's up by enough to withstand Nigel's Har, and after one more endgame move apiece, Adam takes Game 5, 467 to 448. With his back against the wall in Game 6, Nigel draws the first blank and opens with Bice for 16. And after Adam's best response of Joey, Nigel gets the first bingo down with Irenic for 71. Adam again answers with his best move of Zinnia for 50, and here Nigel has 3 very different choices after drawing the WU combo. Uglies or Guiles neutralize the dangerous Zinnia's hook, but leave the Sea of Irenic wide open. On the other hand, Was for only 15 uses his weakest 2 tiles and leaves everything open to maximize his upside next turn, while also incurring the most risk. So Nigel takes the intermediate option between these of Wig for 23. The thinking here is to at least partially block the C while retaining the S to use with Zinnia's himself, scoring huge with any bingos he draws. If Adam doesn't have an S of his own, he'll be hard-pressed to productively block the Zinnia's hook, with most of his plays coming down from the C. Adam quickly plays his best option of Chair for 42, and Nigel draws a duplicated U at a terrible time, forcing him to play Luau for 19 and hope to hit the Zinnia's hook with a bingo next turn. Adam also draws into the WU combo, and while his top scoring move here is Latex for 40, it keeps that toxic combination together and places the X in the triple lane, so he wisely pivots to Flux for 28, his best option here. Nigel again misses his bingo draw and is forced to try one more time with Vex for 26, but in the nick of time, Adam draws RST and beats Nigel to the spot with Tuerts for 99. Nigel was poised to score huge there and now needs to improvise. He does have playable bingos like Roadies for 71, but he instead plays Shrove for 40, keeping I blank on his rack and opening a threatening new lane. Once again, the computer engine likes this idea, approving of retaining the I with a consonant-heavy bag waiting for him. Adam's not going to let this new lane stay open, though, and he plays Nosed for 38 to pad his lead further. As he may have expected, Nigel draws a slew of consonants and is forced into playing Until for 21. But Adam gets another huge draw at a great time and plays his only bingo of Repaving for 65, putting his winning chances at an estimated 99%. Still, nobody manufactures winning chances better than Nigel, who plays Moy for 38 to keep himself within range. It's an extremely difficult board though, and Adam responds with Weak for 32 to score well and open nothing new to Nigel. Nigel responds with Dep for 27, biding his time and perhaps hoping for a Q draw and something like Quietude, which will score very well and reopen the board. Recognizing this, Adam answers with Un for 11 to deny that possibility. After Nigel's move for 21, Adam continues to lock the board down with Goon for 11, his championship victory now in sight. Nigel tries to open a new line with Odd for 7, which is difficult for Adam to block effectively. The unseen Q is a menace here, and rather than risk being stuck with it, Adam plays Blit for 11, giving himself a second spot where the Q would play. Nigel responds with just for 6, perhaps hoping that Adam will open the board with a Q play and give him a place to bingo. Up by 102, Adam realizes the Q could easily still be in the bag, and he takes no chances here, passing his turn back to Nigel. After a minute or two of thought, Nigel decides that there are no winning pathways here and plays Fad for 26, conceding defeat. After Adam's lair, Nigel's quiet, and Adam's rats, Adam Logan clinches the 2025 World Scrabble Championship 4-2. This match truly had it all, from Adam's insane comeback in Game 3 to Nigel's shocking phony and subsequent recovery to still win Game 4 to multiple games featuring late game passes. Adam's second world championship places him in a group with Nigel and David Eldar as the only players to ever win multiple titles, cementing his legendary status as one of the game's best players. I felt privileged to be on the call for this match to witness Scrabble history in real time, and I hope you enjoyed this match recap as well. Let's all congratulate Adam Logan on his incredible achievement, world champion once again, 20 years later.